Welcome back to Special Report. Joining me now, Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley, former South Carolina governor, former ambassador to the United Nations. Thanks for coming back on Special Report.
Great to be with you, Bret. Thanks.
I want to start with the breaking news. The former president seems to believe that he may get arrested, in other words, be indicted by the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg. I want to get your reaction to that. Don't know that it's official yet, but your thoughts about it.
Well, I think right now it's rumor, and I certainly hope it's not the case. I guess we'll find out tomorrow. But, you know, from everything I've seen from this New York district attorney is that this would be something he'd be doing for political points. And I think what we know is when you get into political prosecutions like this, it's more about revenge than it is about justice. And, you know, I think the country would be better off talking about things that the American public cares about than to sit there and have to deal with some revenge by some political people in New York.
You know, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was getting criticism that he hadn't spoke up about this. Today he was asked about it. Here's a piece of that.
Look, I don't know what goes into paying hush money to a porn star to secure silence over some type of alleged affair. I can't speak to that. We are not involved in this, won't be involved in this. I have no interest in getting involved in some type of manufactured circus by some Soros DA.
The former president then responded on his Truth Social, saying Ron DeSantis will probably find out about false accusations and fake stories sometime in the future as he gets older, wiser, better known when he's unfairly and illegally attacked by a woman, even classmates that are underage or possibly a man. I'm sure he will want to fight these misfits just like I do. And then he linked a story about DeSantis being a teacher at a college. What is your sense about this? And obviously you're running against both of these men.
Look, I mean, they can go back and forth on all of that stuff. I think what we need to focus on is, first of all, you know, you never want to condone any sort of prosecution that's being politicized, because we know that that's just political revenge. And I think we've seen enough of that over the past few years. The second thing is the American people want us talking about things that really matter, which is the economy. They want to talk about, you know, what's happening with Russia and China right now. They want to talk about the fact that, you know, we've got to get our kids back in schools and back on track. There's a lot of issues we have in this country, and, you know, they can duke it out on that stuff, but that's just not anything that Americans are talking about today. You mentioned China and Russia, the Chinese leader in Moscow, talking about a possible ceasefire deal. The White House was asked about that today. Take a listen.
Any ceasefire that does not address the removal of Russian forces from Ukraine would effectively ratify Russia's illegal conquests, enabling Russia to entrench its positions and then to restart the war at a more advantageous time for them.
How do you see it, China's role in Russia and what they're doing now?
This goes back to the debate that, you know, we have to talk about this in a way that we understand that there is nothing China would love more than to see Russia win this war on Ukraine, because a win for Russia is a win for China. These are two countries that have named and two dictators that have said they are unlimited partners. We need to remember that. They chose those words carefully. You look at the images today. That was very intentional. This is the new axis of evil, with Iran being their junior partner. What we have to do is stay focused. We have to have the backs of Ukraine. That doesn't mean we have money or troops, but we have to finish this, because China does not want that. And what we have to make sure of is when Ukraine wins this war against Russia, that will send a message with China that wants to take Taiwan. It'll send a message to North Korea. It'll send a message to Iran. We have to finish this. This is not a territorial dispute. This is a fight for freedom, and it's one that we have to win.
It's interesting you use those two words. Bret Stephens with the New York Times said for Governor DeSantis to call Russia's invasion of Ukraine a territorial dispute in which the United States does not have a vital interest tells me that he's totally unfit to be president. He's parroting Kremlin propaganda. He's undermining NATO. He's endangering America by emboldening other dictators with territorial disputes, starting with China's Xi Jinping. So do you side with Bret Stephens of the New York Times?
What I'll say is this is not the time to get weak in the knees on Russia. I mean, if you get weak in the knees on Russia, you are totally handing China what they want on a silver platter. This is the time for American strength. This is the time to prevent wars, not start wars. If we lose this war in Russia, with Russia and Ukraine, then you can bet China's going to go into Taiwan, and you can bet that Russia's going to go into Poland and the Baltics, and we're going to have a world war.
Do you think that this will be a seminal issue in the GOP primary that you're running in?
I think that you're going to see foreign policy issues and crises are going to be at the front and center for the next 10 to 20 years. We have to be smart. We have to use strategy. We have to be very focused on what American strength looks like. If we do that, we will bring peace across the world.
Last thing, and this is a big issue in the Republican primary as well, woke and wokeness and what that means for families around the country. You're quoted saying wokeness is a virus more dangerous than any pandemic, hands down. So for those families who look at you saying that and say, I don't know if wokeness, this pandemic took my family member. What do you say to them?
Well, I have friends and family members. My sister-in-law died from COVID. So, look, there's no one closer to it than our family, and we share that grief with all the other families. And that's the reason why I think we need to hold China accountable for exactly what they did to many families. But when you talk about wokeness, don't underestimate the dangers of what this is doing. The wokeness has caused so much damage to our children that we can't have that happen anymore. It is a plague that will impact them for the rest of their lives if we don't put a stop to it. It's dangerous. It's unhealthy. We're seeing it with anxiety and stress on our kids, and we've got to put an end to it.
Governor, Ambassador, we appreciate you coming on.
Thanks so much.